So today we are here with a new guest. He is an expert in the field of supply chain, quality control, and supply relationships. He's currently the director of business development at Noviland. So everyone buckle up as we listen to the experience of our guest and the knowledge that he can share with us. Francois Jaffre. Did I pronounce it well?
Jaffre or
Jaffre.
Jaffris.
Okay.
Depends where you are. If
Okay. Tu parles français?
un peu.
Info. Okay, good. Your name like really French sounds to me.
Very French. Yeah, it's actually my grandfather's name. And I'm a first generation American, and so my dad's side of the family, they're all from France.
Oh, okay, got you. I do have family and friends too.
Oh yeah.
So you know why, for those that, first of all, welcome to the channel and being a guest here. Thank you. And for the viewers that don't really know about you, maybe you can share a little more about your background and what are you working on currently?
Yeah, definitely. So it's actually exciting that the way that I arrived even here at Noviland and how Noviland came to be. But my background is in industrial engineering. That's what I graduated with. That's what I have a degree in, and a lot of that is just process building. Of course, we had a focus in supply chain and manufacturing and understanding a lot of the technical details. But a lot of what you learn in school is not the reality. Right. You can't translate. I would say 80% of actually what I learned can't be translated over to the real world when it comes to supplier relationships, when it comes to communications with them, when it comes to developing a product, from scratch as an entrepreneur. A lot of times they'll teach you, oh, you have a product designer, you have an engineer that does this, you have a mechanical engineer that, tests these different limits. And it's very complex. And it makes sense because that is more of the traditional way, I guess, for larger businesses to go. But now we're seeing this huge rise with Amazon sellers, right? And so it puts us in a very weird time. But I'm going to go down that rabbit hole in a little bit. Just to, I guess, back up a little bit. I joined the Noviland team as part of the founding team about a little bit over 5 years ago. And I was just an intern at the time. And the dream was really just to, or the vision was just to make supply chain and cross-border commerce simple and streamlined. That was the goal because the last thing I did something like that was Alibaba, and they were tremendously successful. Obviously, great marketplace, great platform. Of course, just like everything else, there's nothing that doesn't come with flaws, right? And there are problems that come up when it comes to finding and vetting and communications and after sales support. And they have some great tools and features like Alipay that empower, or trade assurance, I think it's called, that empowers you to sort of have safer transactions, but still there's nothing that's ever guaranteed or 100%, just like in life, right? So we came up with this idea to sort of create a platform that simplifies and streamlines the entire supply chain from the initial sourcing and requesting quotes through gathering samples and consolidating them through getting real-time updates when it comes to logistics and logistics pricing to wherever that destination may be, and combining all this in a very easy to use platform and very digestible. um, and so, yeah, the platform was launched in 2018. And I'm not going to make this a sales pitch. If you want to check
Yeah,
it out, they could check it out at Noviland.
yeah.
But yeah, that's a little bit of what got me into supply chain. And I have the privilege of personally working with tons of Amazon sellers. And I've spoken with thousands of businesses about their needs, about their problems, and finding new solutions to them. So that's really what you can't learn in college, and it's something that I love personally.
That's very cool. And thank you for sharing this with us. I know that you, part of what you guys do is a big part of it is supply chain, but what are the supply chain issues that you guys and everyone else are facing right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think COVID really exposed a lot of holes in businesses' supply chains, in particular e-commerce businesses that tend to rely on more of this lean manufacturing and just-in-time manufacturing. Right, this is a lot of people don't realize they're even going with this JIT process, as some call it, but it's something that Toyota actually came up with. And it's more of, hey, let's produce the items as we need them and not keep as large of a stock or inventory. So you have less overhead, you have more capital to reinvest in your products, but it relies on every step of the supply chain working. And so what COVID showed us was that, if let's say consumers are locked down, they can't spend, right? The manufacturers or brand owners are not going to be placing orders to their factories. If factories are not producing, then there's no reason for shipping carriers to have any sort of, commerce back and forth, and any sort of shipping. When there's a lack of shipping, there's a lack of commerce. So it's this never-ending cycle of, no one wants to buy anything, so no one's going to make anything. If no one makes anything, no one's going to ship anything. And so it's almost like a flywheel. It's very much actually a flywheel. This traditional Amazon flywheel that everyone talks about, very similar in supply chain. Um, and so right now, for example, what we're facing are huge raises in raw material costs. And
Yes.
we're seeing this across the board, right? Whether it's paper, plastic, metal, no matter what the product is, you're going to see a
Crazy.
raw, yeah. And it's, I've spoken with a lot of businesses, and they're going to fight to get the best price because that's what they do. You're not doing it right if you're not fighting for the best price. But one thing you have to realize also is that comes with quality, right? And so and it comes with relationships, and a lot of times you'll get a better rate even if, let's say the rise in raw materials was 20% or 30%. They might not pass along the same conversion or multiplier that they typically would in products. So it might be, a 2 to 3 multiplier from the raw material to the finished product, or uh, uh, that's just an example. But they may instead say, well, look, you've been ordering a lot from us, you've been growing with us, you trust us, and we trust you that you're going to continue doing business with us. So we're going to start you off with, let's say, a 15-20% increase
Yeah.
on your product. Naturally, you're going to come back and say, hey, I want something a little bit lower, it's a big hit. um, and so you might come down to 12%, but that's all done through relationships.
He
And,
absorbs
and
some
so
of the cost, like, as well.
yeah, right, right. And so they keep you competitive, and it's also something that, again, your competitors are going to be seeing these rise in costs. It's just like when we encountered the trade war back in 2018. It's kind of all up in the air, and everyone immediately starts thinking, well, let's go to Vietnam, or let's go to India, or let's go
Hmm.
to Mexico. And that's the immediate thought, right? It's not, well, let's work out, this issue with our supplier, and let's figure out how we can solve this together. And this is a huge issue. I see typically not just in medium to large size businesses, but particularly with entrepreneurs that are handling a lot of this themselves, and in particular that are doing this for the first time, and all they're relying on is YouTube and courses, and that's where they're getting their business experience from. Um, but yeah, I mean, I know I heard a few of your episodes, and I know that you started off back in the day, sort of sourcing yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I source myself. I did use some sourcing agents, but I think that I tweaked my system, my processes, uh, to a level that kind of give me the same results as a sourcing agent,
Mhm.
by me showing the suppliers I negotiate with, like that they know what are the real prices of the items, so they feel they can't like give me prices from nowhere. So I think a key of negotiating is knowing, okay, what is the bottom line price that they can offer it to you. Obviously you want the suppliers and factories to make money, you want them to be happy as well. You can just cut them to a point that they don't really make any money. But once you know the real price of an item, you know how much you can stretch and kind of negotiate with them. So that works for me very well. But right now, like when you mentioned that the prices of raw materials are going up like crazy, I see it with my items as well. One supplier that we buy from him a lot, actually, he increased the price, like double the price of the
Mm.
item, like $4.50. He wants like $9. So then, look, I can't, I just can't like sell it. I would have to just let this item go if these will be the prices. So I might talk to you. Maybe you have some connections later about this specific item. But definitely for me, it's all about what you're looking like. I think, and you should always test and try. I tried sourcing agents, I tried, doing it myself. I think it depends on many factors, like whether you should do it yourself or with sourcing agent or a company that help you. Obviously there are a lot of um, pros when dealing with a company that's what they do. They have all the experience on how to negotiate, how to get the best payment terms, all these connections and networking that they have in China. So this is something big, I think, if you decide to do it yourself or not. But definitely to try like do it yourself or outsource. But thank you, for sharing the challenges that you guys have. Knowing all these challenges with the prices and with prices of freight and logistics and how competitive it is right now, what do you think sellers should do to be more prepared in like 2021, and especially for Q4 ahead of time? So not really last minute they realize that, oh, okay, there's no enough containers, or the freight cost is X, and they have no choice in shipping it air shipping or like kind of pivot. What do you think are the steps that sellers should take to be more prepared?
I think it's an answer. First of all, it's an answer that I haven't said anywhere else, and it's an answer I think a lot of people are going to hate because they're gonna think that they already do enough. But I think it's do more preparation when it comes to supply chain. I think it's learning and not just learning that that Ever Given was stuck in the Suez Canal, and looking at the memes, and but also realizing, hey, this affects 12% of all global trade that goes through the Suez Canal. How is that going to affect me? How are these containers that are stuck right now in the canal going to affect the global container shortage, and how is that going to affect pricing? So now, how do I need to factor that into my business? Now I might need to think, well, there's a lack of containers. Typically, I do half a container load at a time. I know that prices are going to go up because the vessels are stuck, because there is that lack of containers, because the shipping carriers are going to see this as an opportunity to surge in some of the pricing. So maybe I'll get ahead of the curve and I'll order a full container load, and this will hold me over for the next, I don't know, 8 months instead of a traditional 3 to 4 months.
Gotcha.
So it's a lot more planning, I think, that could be done when it comes to forecasting and being well prepared in supply chain.
Yeah.
It's very to a lot of people, it's very boring and it's very unsexy, right? It's not PPC, it's not marketing, it's not product research, it's not what a lot of people talk about. But it is one of the most important and vital aspects to your business. Without the supply chain, without a steady supply chain, you're nothing. I mean, unless you are producing the products yourself,
Yes.
without a steady supply chain and a great relationship with your factory, and knowing what logistics are, knowing what real prices, just like you were talking about, are, you're nothing. You're at your complete business is stacked on top of very loose cards, or it's a house of cards, I guess, as they call them. And so it's just waiting to be crumbled, and it could be crumbled by one aspect. It could be crumbled by lack of containers. It could be crumbled by raw materials prices going up, and now you're considering potentially not selling this product anymore. Could be your hero product, right? This could be the product that you've been selling for the past 10 years, and you've always been able to rely on this, but without knowing, hey, how to read the Baltic Index and how to track my raw materials and what goes into my product, it can all crumble, and it could go to nothing. So it's important to do your research and do your homework and follow supply chain. Sign up to the newsletters, not just to all the the Amazon leaders, but also to the supply chain leaders, and looking on LinkedIn, connecting with them, reaching out to them, finding out what different prices are, and what's going on. Why is the price going up? Not just, hey, I need 10% lower. It's, how can I achieve that 10% lower, given the current circumstances of the market. Um, so it's something I think a lot of people are going to hate because they already do a lot, and that's your job as an entrepreneur and as a business owner to do. But supply chain is vital. So I would say that is my suggestion.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned people gonna hate you for that answer, but I think, there's that's great that you share and you're honest and you keep it like like real with people what they actually need to focus on. I can agree with you more on that. I think that's really an area, and I only realized that like this like maybe a year ago. I realized that I don't put enough emphasis on this, and by me focusing more on supply chain and inventory, whether that's with my team or by myself, it could save me a lot of money. And not just could save, it could lead to a great growth without really like launching more products and stuff, just if you're like prepared enough. And in my opinion, there is nothing more annoying than maybe getting out of stock or maybe have delays, knowing that you could be more prepared. So there is always more to do. And I think even myself, it's sometimes it's on my list, but I to check something related to inventory or supply chain, but I just move it to the next day sometimes. But it's something that is super important in my opinion.
Well, yeah, knowing the behind the scenes stuff like what cargo ready dates are and when booking average booking times are. If traditionally when everything is good and all the markets are perfect, let's say 3 years ago, right? Everything was dandelions and roses and everything was great. You're ordering from your suppliers, you get it done within 20 days, and they can book the container within a week or so. And so if you just continue running your supply chain this way and you try to do that today, I mean, you're looking at about a 3-week lead time to book a container to actually load your products in.
Yeah.
You're seeing an increase in rolled cargo, which a lot of people don't even know what rolled cargo is. All they hear from their factory is, "Oh, we missed the boat." Well,
Yeah.
what does that mean? You didn't just miss the boat. It means, you probably paid very low costs when it comes to freight forwarding or for that container spot. Let's say you paid $4,000 for that container spot. Well, someone just beat you with 4,200 and they were willing to pay the $200 extra. So now you're going to have to wait another week. Why? Because you went with the cheapest price.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm encountering all these last minute fees or charges. Well, behind the scenes, there's accessorial charges. There's demurrage. There's truck yard fees. There's truck waiting fees. If, for example, the driver has to wait at the 3PL for more than 2 hours, typically they'll start charging you about $50 to $100 an hour, and
Wow.
that freight forwarder is going to charge you for that, but they might not have told you. And hey, it's not their job necessarily to tell you. Most of the time they just expect you to know. So that's why it's so important to understand what all of these different processes and behind the scenes are about supply chain.
Yeah, for sure. Something that you mentioned, knowing how things work. So when I started, I didn't really understand how things work as far as logistics that much. But by the time because I was always really on the borderline of me getting out of stock or and staying in stock,
Yeah.
cash flow issues. I was trying always to tweak it so I can, with the same resources, get better results. And I was having a meeting with my freight forwarder just so I can understand how things work. And she told me, Tomer, look, when you actually tell us to pick up something from the supplier, it doesn't ship the same day. But I was under the impression that they pick it up and they put it on the boat and it goes.
Yeah.
And obviously it doesn't work like that. So I figure with her, okay, so for a regular sea shipping, the loading, the container loading is like on Wednesday, and for the Matson, for the fast sea, it's Saturday. So by me knowing when are the dates, I can coordinate with the factories that make the items. If they tell me, oh, it's going to be ready Tuesday, then I know it's not enough time for the regular sea shipping. So I will tell them, can you try to make it ready for Monday morning pickup? Then they have enough time to load the container and make sure that it's ready for this Wednesday. So knowing all these things can help you, with the supply chain. I like 100% agree with that. Um, so like,
And hey, that was done through relationships. That was
yeah,
done by you talking to your freight forwarder and not just looking for someone different,
yeah.
right? That's the amazing part about it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like when, and you'll be surprised when you ask them, they will give all the information.
Mhm.
Like they want to help, and I think that by you understand all the details, you just create better workflow with the supplier or with anyone. And I think we talked about this the other day, me, you, and Lisa. By me wanted to go to China just so we can create better relationships, but I did like pay a translator to
Mhm.
go to a factory so we can have a meeting, and then it's like the same of me being there. So that's part of how you build relationship, and I want to talk with you about this, but this will be my next few questions. But you mentioned something about not something but about the Suez Canal, this vessel that was stuck there. Could you share, so if people don't know about it, I did make a video, I think a couple of days ago with Amazon FBA news. and I did explain about this why it's so important. The canal, it's basically save them a round trip around Africa from Asia. It doesn't really affect the US sellers a lot. It's more for Europe, but it's going to affect us long term, I think, with delays in containers. But want to hear from you, what are those effects? Is it still there? It's stuck? What is the situation right now?
Yeah, no, it's been freed. But what this is going back to the knock-on effects of this was stuck. Now all the vessels that were expecting to go through the Suez Canal that were right behind it. These are hundreds of vessels that are carrying thousands of containers, right? Tens of thousands of containers, and some of it being cargo that are perishable, right? Food and different types of drinks that they're importing. Um, so now all the perishable items, they may be impacted by it. The cost within Europe might be impacted by it. But then, once that I believe it was called the Ever Given, what was cleared, then they had to inspect it. Then they had to transport it, go get the containers unloaded. From there, all the vessels that were waiting behind it, now they also are waiting in line to get unloaded, and so it's creating a backlog, continuous backlog, right? And then let's start tracking this back from Europe to Asia. Now, all the vessels that were expecting to leave from China to go to Europe, and this situation happened, and they realized, well, hey, it's gonna our boats are gonna be docked. The shipping carriers are thinking this. Our boats are gonna be docked. We're gonna have to pay, thousands of dollars in fuel every day that they're docked and just waiting to get to the port or waiting in this huge queue. So
Yes.
we're not going to ship these out. Now that's causing congestion in China. And
Wow.
now causing congestion in China at the ports means that the containers that were supposed to be loaded, let's say those ports are going to the US or going anywhere else. Now those containers are stuck at those ports
Wow.
because the vessels are stuck. And
Wow.
because those containers are stuck, now factories are backlogged with items in their ware. I mean, it's a never-ending chain, and this is why they call it a supply chain,
Yeah.
right? And as you go upstream, it gets worse and worse.
Mhm.
And so they have to pick that flywheel back up, and they have to say, okay, let's fix this. It's going to be very expensive. Shipping carriers are going to charge extra for it. Lead times are going to increase, but you need to find solutions with your suppliers. You need to find solutions with your freight forwarders. You need to come up with the best business solution for keeping stock, right? Because you don't want to lose all the momentum for marketing. And so, if you're going to Europe, you might, instead of going with ocean freight, you might use rail freight. Well, now because ocean freight is so congested and so many people are switching to rail freight is starting to get congested. Prices are starting to go up, right? So and this is why it's important to understand what the supply chain is and how it works globally, because it will impact you no matter where it's going. If it's being transported to Africa, it's going to impact you in the US if something goes wrong going to Africa.
Yeah.
um, and so a lot of times there tends to be this skewed view that, well, if it doesn't impact me in the US, then it's, or if it's not directly on the West Coast ports or the East Coast ports, or then my items are going to be perfect. They're going to keep going along great. That's not the reality of it. Everything has a knock-on effect, and in supply chain, the smallest thing globally, the smallest thing will impact you no matter what.
Okay, this is something that I didn't know. So thank you for sharing. Like the fact that, I didn't think that it's affecting US sellers a lot because it's a different route. But by you explaining like the whole chain on how it works, it's much clearer on how it like things work, and the port loading, vessels will not go out. That's very fascinating to me. It's funny, but yesterday I didn't plan to, but I just before sleeping, I opened National Geographic and I saw a TV show about the canals, like one, the Panama one and the Suez, and how they expanding it, how crazy it is, and it's really really interesting. Really recommend to anyone. Just it's interesting to know, and especially when it's something that you work with related to. So, uh,
Take an hour out of your day. Hey, you're going to sleep just like you. Pull up National Geographic. Google, how does international supply chain work? You could have been doing this for 5 years. You could have been working with your suppliers on Alibaba, working with freight forwarders. Everything was fantastic. And COVID hit. Now you're tremendously impacted. Go home tonight and Google, how does international supply chain work? And just watch the videos.
are you guys the first result?
We're not. I mean, we're not going to be up there, and that's perfectly fine. I
Yeah,
mean, there's amazing videos. I still go home and watch. How does manufacturing work? Let's say in Germany, and how does that supply chain work all around?
yeah,
You'll be interested to see how the rise of manufacturing in Germany actually increases exports eastbound, going back to China, and a lot of the machinery that they make in Italy is actually utilized in China for manufacturing a lot of items, and then I could go down some deep rabbit holes because I go down them.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
kind of I nerd out with it. But it's interesting to me because I see it as, hey, everything is based on this infrastructure of supply chain, and no matter how successful your business is, if you're not very in tune with your supply chain, it can crumble at any moment. And so that's why I see it as so vital, and that's why I tend to nerd out with it.
yeah, yeah. That's great wisdom that you share with us here. So thank you. Um, building relationship with suppliers. I know it's something that you guys deal and do, and it's something that you have a lot of knowledge as well to share. But what are the things, or what you can share with us building a great relationship with suppliers or freight forwarder, or with anyone that you're working in China, taking in mind that difference with the culture difference.
Yeah, I think number one, it's breaking this consumer mindset that the consumer is always right or the customer is always right. That does not hold true with supplier relationships, or because suppliers should be your partners, right? Freight forwarders should be your partners. At the end of the day, you're relying on them and they are relying on you. You're
Yeah,
both going to make money. Um, and also realizing something that is just not talked about enough, that suppliers are vetting you as a buyer just as much as you are vetting them as a supplier. So if you approach them, let's say with a questionnaire of 50 questions, and half of them probably don't pertain to your particular product, but you just wanted to vet them. Well, a very good factory that typically, they mainly speak Chinese at the higher levels, at the management and executive and ownership levels. They're going to look at that as, hey, this person that I have no clue about is asking me 50 questions and they want detailed answers about my machinery, about the number of people here, and
it's not
I'm
the
like,
right time, right?
yeah. And they're like, well, I mean, I didn't even give this person a quote.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't even tell me their specs yet, but they want to know all this information on me. I'm not going to spend the time because I'm going to have to invest more and more and more and more time. And
Unless
remember,
they show me interest, right? Like they
yeah,
potential. So if they don't see potential, or when you ask 50 questions, it doesn't make sense for them, they will just ignore you.
or just like you were saying earlier, if you're not very in tune with what your product is and what the actual costs are, and if you can't talk the language, they may see you not necessarily as a sucker, but someone that is going to be a little bit harder to work with, and
Yeah.
someone that you are going to charge a little bit more because you are harder to work with. So you might not get that best pricing because now they have to answer more questions. In some instances, actually in a lot of instances where we audited our factories, they told us, hey, we actually have to develop the products for these people, and there's no guarantee that they're going to follow through with it, but I have to set aside an engineer 3 hours 4 hours a day, and now they're telling me that they only want 500 units, and well, the product is only about $1.50, so I'm only making $650. Where's the benefit in this, right? Where am I winning? And so a lot of times the buyer will see that as, oh, I need to continuously vet them, they have to be really good to me, they have to answer my questions, they have to resolve my issues. But if you make their life easy, if you treat them as a human and you just approach them with, hey, how's your day, hey, these are my products, this is the product that I'm looking for, here's all the specifications that I've gathered, if you have alternatives or better solutions, or any of your customers are doing something better, I would love to hear about it. But in my experience, these are the best materials to use. Is this something that you can produce? I'm looking to, have a budget of about $5,000. Not, I have, I don't know what my budget is. They're going to say, well, how your business, you're asking me for 500 units, but you don't know what your budget is. Do you want 50,000 units? I mean, are you okay with a container load? So it's approaching them with this project and this business mindset, again, not with this consumer mindset. I think it's a very important to break, um and again, just treating them like humans, because that's what they are at the end of the day, right? And humans, as humans, we love storytelling, we love relationship building, we love the little chit chat. Hey, how's your day going?
Yeah.
Hey, it was your son's birthday, did they enjoy their birthday? What did you guys do? It's these little things that can get you much further, and I'm talking about 100x further, than just, hey, I need this product and I need it for 5% cheaper than you could give it to me, and that's done deal, that's the end of it. That's all I'm going to say to you,
Yeah.
because they're going to see that as, hey, this person's just very transactional, they could do without us. Well, then we could do without them. We have 5 other people that are requesting quotes. That means we have 5 times the potential with other customers, right? So it's a very skewed mindset, that factories are just waiting around and wishing that you would place an order from them. The reality is, it's a very, uh, uh, supply and demand market. It's about 50-50 on both sides. They're going to be receiving new inquiries quite often. The smaller ones are more open to smaller orders. They're more open to smaller projects, a little bit more difficult of customers. The medium to large size ones, to be frank, they cut out a lot of the BS, and they're like, just tell me what you want. We can build a relationship, but I need you to be professional with this. I need you to at least sound like you know what you're talking about, at the very least, and be kind. I mean, right? I mean, it's a lot of times where people are very cutthroat, and it has to be this way, like it or not. Otherwise, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Well, would you tell your wife that? Would you tell your husband that? And so, remember, it's a relationship. It's not a transaction. It's a partner to you. It's not just a supplier.
I think you gave you really amazing tips. You really described it very well. I that's something that I always try to improve on. And really, like the examples you gave are related also to my next question, how now you can get better payment terms. And by what you said, you can implement it to any request or anything that you have to really want from your supplier, because that's the basic of everything. When you think of, when you ask them something, it's not like a consumer mindset that you ask question and you expect them to explain you everything and really share
Hmm.
everything and make you educated. That's not their job. Their job is to make business. And like you said, they have more people, and when they have to explain all over, like from scratch, something to you, it's take away from their time dealing with more factories or producing more orders or whatever. So you really have to come, and when you ask them something, at the beginning I was, oh, I need to ship this tomorrow, talk to him, to talk to the supplier, here's his contact,
Hmm.
and they would do it. But now I'm giving them more details. Hi, let's say, Mendy is the lady I'm dealing with the freight forwarder. So I tell her, Mendy, look, this supplier is going to be ready on Tuesday. We are going to have 13 cartons or 5 pallets. We have to ship it, that type of shipping. Like, I'm giving her as much details and making her life as much easier as I can, and she will do the same. So you can just come and just take. You have to really give back. Gifts and things like that are, always can help.
Right.
And asking, really like genuinely, really asking them how they feel, how they are. I remember in the, during the pandemic, it's like asking, are you safe? Do you need something? They were also asking me. They would sending me masks because we couldn't get the masks here. So they would send me mask express shipping. So we kind of build that relation. I think that's really like, people don't understand the importance of building the relationship enough. And maybe in the future we can have a video just around that with you. I'm sure like you have so much more
That would be
knowledge
a
to
great
show me.
video between
But
both of us. I mean, with your experience too. Yeah.
yeah, but what do you think, like, for payment terms are the keys in order to really get payment terms from suppliers? Because it could make a really big difference in your Amazon business.
100%. I 100% agree. Payment terms are a tremendous proponent to your business, whether it's an Amazon business or any other business. Payment terms with your suppliers is should be key, every time. It should be what you're looking towards, not towards just a discount on the product itself, because it improves your cash flow heavily. You have a lot more options. Um, but when it comes to payment terms specifically with suppliers, and particularly with those overseas, I think we need to keep one thing in mind, and we need to lay down one piece of foundation: is that this is all based on trust. no matter how many contracts that you have, no matter what repercussions, you lay out in those contracts, it's based on trust. When you pay them 30% for a fully customized product, with your logo on it, with something that they might not have experience selling, they're trusting that you're going to pay that other 70%. So just basing that foundation, based on that foundation, let's remember that this is all based on trust. But to improve those payment terms, to say, hey, instead of paying 30% up front and 70% prior to shipping, I really need to be able to order 2,000 units, but I can't do that because it's going to affect my total cash flow. And I need to spend more on PPC, and competition is growing, so I need to lower my unit price. And you can list out the reasons as to why you need better payment terms. I think that's the first step. Um, but then it's building that relationship with them to where they can trust you to say, okay, I understand that you can't do the 70% on shipping because there's a 35-day lead time between that and the West Coast, and Amazon's taking 5 weeks to check it in, and it takes about 2 weeks to start with the sale. So maybe we'll give you a net 30 term or net 15 term just to help you out initially for the 70%. And this is all based on conversations. This is all based on, they understand that you're having issues, not necessarily with cash for the orders that you're ordering, but issues to grow. And these are growing pains, right? And they want to grow with you. It's in their best interest to continue producing your products because they have experience, because it costs them more to acquire a new customer because of all the back and forth, because of the sampling process, prototypes, all of that. So they understand that. They're not dumb.
Yeah.
They understand that it's better to keep you as a customer and help you grow, because then they're going to grow, as long as you're a good customer to them, right? And you treat them well. So building the relationship with them and having those casual conversations of, how are you doing? How's your kids doing? What can I do for you? How can I help you? And then being prepared, just like you were saying, giving as much as you're taking. These are important components to the relationship. Ultimately, very important to trust. Deliver on everything that you promise. If you're telling them, I'm going to grow order over order.
And I'm
One
sorry, I
point.
wrote some notes that I'm
No.
taking to implement it today. Just following up with some suppliers I didn't follow with a couple of weeks or months.
Yeah, it's important. And actually, my mentor, and advisor from college, Dr. Bird, one thing that I did take away from him, that if this is all I take away from college, it's all I take away from college. But it's, when you promise someone something, or when you help someone out with something, you inherently expect them to tell you how the result was. If you give, if you're asking someone for advice, you should also let them know, hey, this is how, I used your advice and this is how it worked. And same thing with suppliers. If you're telling them, hey, I'm going to get better payment terms so I can increase my sales volume because I'm running more giveaways, and you tell them a little bit of details. You don't have to tell them your entire strategy, but you tell them why you need these things, and then you tell them the result. Hey, look at these payment terms. I wanted net 60. You gave me net 15. With that, increased cash flow of not having to pay prior to shipping. Now I'm able to increase my advertising spend, and now my BSR has went from 20,000 to 15,000, and it's improving, and I'm able to place another large order with you. So remember, tell them, hey, this is doing well, we are working together, I appreciate you as a supplier and as a partner, I hope you appreciate me as a customer. So yeah, I mean, again, all based on relationships, all based on trust.
Yeah. Communication is a key here. And
It's
like you
key.
said, I did the exact same thing. So I kept them, explained them how it works on Amazon to those that didn't understand, like suppliers. And that's how I got payment terms. I tell them, look, I'm really that close to get the bestseller badge. And if I get it, my sales will double. And that's what happened. So they saw it, and they saw that me placing orders right away. And then we came to a point that I was getting out of stock. And I told them, look, you really have to give me payment terms in order for me to keep the BSR, to keep the bestseller badge. Once they understand how things work, it was much easier for me to get what I want. So just explain them, how it works, how your business works, what is your expectations, what are you forecasting. Let them know your plans. So if you prepare an internal forecasting, you want to really share it with the factory and your supplier. You want to tell them, look, based on what we think, this is like our orders for this year, for this quarter, for this month. When you keep them involved, they can be more prepared. When you surprise them, they will be in stress. When they are in stress, at the end, it will come to you. So, this is things that I learned on my really on my business, and I love to share. And I think you shared your really great knowledge here. One of the best interviews that I had. I think you're talking right to the point. I love the style of how you really sharing the knowledge. So thank you very much for that, Francois. Like I said at the beginning, before we started, I want to keep it short and precise and leave people
Yes,
this
digestible,
feeling of more. So
digestible.
hopefully you can be a guest on our channel in the future. I'm going to be guest in your podcast next week or in 10 days, something
Yeah,
like that.
next week.
So guys that are watching that, go to Noviland, whether that's the Facebook page or their website, so you can, tune to their podcast. Again, Francois, thank you so much. Before we wrap it up, is there anything else you would like to add here? Or how people can
No,
find about you or your services and your company?
yeah, I sincerely do appreciate the conversation that you also had. You had, actual insights from a seller's perspective to bring to the table, which I appreciate, because a lot of this is just not talked about, again, because it's not sexy. It's not the sexy side of Amazon. You can see I get passionate about it. I love talking about it. So anyone that would like to have a conversation about it, I'm always open to it. I'm pretty active on Clubhouse, and it's just at Francois J. You can add me on LinkedIn. We could chat. Um, if you follow Noviland and message there, 99% of the time I will somehow see that message, or I'll get it forwarded to me, and we can also have a chat there. So it doesn't really matter how you can reach out to me. If you just Google Francois Jaffre, I'm sure the LinkedIn also pops up and we could chat there.
Sounds good. Thank you again for being a guest here. And I wish you, a good weekend, and we'll be in touch. Thank you for the knowledge here.
Thank you, Tomer.
All right. Take care. Bye now.